Elena Russo's hands trembled as she stacked the last of the dinner plates onto her serving tray. 6 months pregnant, and her lower back felt like someone had taken a sledgehammer to it. The Friday night rush at Giordano's had been relentless, 3 hours of non-stop orders, demanding customers, and the kind of heat that made the kitchen feel like the inside of a volcano. She paused, one hand pressed against the small of her back, the other steadying the tower of porcelain that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Her reflection caught in the polished chrome of the kitchen door, dark circles under her eyes, her black server's uniform stretching tight across her belly, her dark hair escaping from its ponytail in damp strands. 26 years old, 6 months pregnant, and working double shifts to save enough for the baby. This wasn't how she'd imagined her life would look. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment, telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Elena, move it. Marcus Chen's voice cracked across the kitchen like a whip. Table 12 needs their dessert course 5 minutes ago. Elena flinched, but kept moving. Marcus had been the general manager at Giordano's for 2 years, and in that time, he'd perfected the art of making everyone around him miserable. Short, compact, with slicked-back hair and a perpetual sneer, he ruled the restaurant like a tyrant in an expensive suit. She pushed through the swinging door into the dining room, the sudden shift from kitchen chaos to elegant ambiance always jarring. Giordano's was Chicago's premier Italian restaurant, crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, prices that made Elena's eyes water. Politicians dined here, celebrities, people who spent more on a single meal than Elena made in a week. The tray was heavier than usual. Elena could feel it, the weight pulling at her arms, her pregnant belly throwing off her usual center of balance. She'd been a server for 8 years since she was 18, and she'd never dropped anything. Not once. She took pride in that. But tonight, her body felt different. Tired, stretched thin. She made it past table 7, past the bar where Victor, the bartender, gave her a sympathetic nod, past table 10 where a couple in their 50s barely glanced up from their wine. 3 more steps to the service station. 2 more steps. 1. Her foot caught on something. Later, she'd realize it was the edge of a floor mat that had somehow folded over on itself. In the moment, all she knew was that she was falling forward, the tray tilting, 12 plates of expensive porcelain sliding toward disaster. Elena tried to catch them. Her hands shot out, abandoning the tray entirely, trying to save what she could. She managed to grab 3 plates, pulling them against her chest protectively, instinctively curving her body around her belly. The other 9 plates crashed to the marble floor with a sound like a bomb going off. The entire dining room went silent, porcelain shards scattered across the floor in a 3-foot radius. Remnants of tiramisu and panna cotta smeared across the marble. A shard had even flown far enough to land near a table where a woman in diamonds clutched her pearls dramatically. Elena stood frozen, the 3 plates still clutched to her chest, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack through her ribs. "I'm sorry," she whispered to no one in particular. "I'm so sorry." The kitchen door burst open. Marcus stormed through, his face already red, already twisted with fury before he even reached her. "What the hell did you just do?" His voice wasn't quiet, wasn't discreet. Every person in the dining room could hear him. "Do you have any idea how much those plates cost?" "I tripped," Elena said, her voice shaking. She carefully set down the 3 plates she'd saved on a nearby table. "The mat was folded over. I didn't see it. I'm sorry." "Sorry?" Marcus stepped closer, invading her space. She could smell his cologne, thick and cloying. "Sorry doesn't pay for 12 custom-imported plates at $300 each." Elena's mind did the math automatically. $3,600. More than 2 months of her salary. "I can pay for them," she heard herself say, even though she had no idea how. "Take it out of my paychecks. I'll work extra shifts." "You'll work extra shifts?" Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. He gestured at her belly with disgust. "You can barely handle the shifts you have now. Look at you. Waddling around like—" "Marcus, please." Elena's voice cracked. She was aware of the eyes on them. All of them. The wealthy diners watching this spectacle with expressions ranging from pity to disgust to morbid entertainment. "Can we discuss this in the back? I don't want to." "To what? Embarrass yourself?" Marcus grabbed her arm. His fingers dug in hard. Enough to hurt. "You already did that. You embarrassed me. You embarrassed this restaurant. You think I can run a 5-star establishment with servers who destroy thousands of dollars of property?" Victor had emerged from behind the bar, his face troubled. "Hey man, ease up. It was an accident. Stay out of this," Marcus snapped, not even looking at him. Elena tried to pull her arm free. "You're hurting me. I'm hurting you?" Marcus's grip tightened. "You just cost me $3,600. What happened next would replay in Elena's mind for weeks afterward, each detail crystallized with the sharp clarity of trauma. Marcus raised his other hand. Elena saw it coming but couldn't move fast enough. His hand was still locked around her arm, holding her in place. The slap connected with her cheek with a crack that echoed through the dining room. Her head snapped to the side. Pain exploded across her face, hot and shocking. She tasted blood where her teeth had cut the inside of her cheek. For a moment, the world tilted. Elena's free hand instinctively went to her belly, protective, maternal instinct, overriding everything else. The dining room erupted. A woman gasped. Someone's chair scraped back. Victor was already moving, vaulting over the bar. But someone else moved faster. Elena didn't see him at first. Her eyes were still swimming with tears of pain and humiliation, her cheek burning like someone had pressed a hot iron to it. She heard him. "Touch her again." The voice came from behind Marcus, quiet, controlled, but carrying an edge of violence that made the hair on Elena's arms stand up. "I dare you." Marcus spun around, his hand dropping from Elena's arm. The man who stood there was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair touched with silver at the temples. He wore an impeccably tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than Elena's car. His face was all sharp angles and controlled fury, and his dark eyes held a kind of cold calculation that made Marcus take an involuntary step backward. Elena recognized him vaguely. He'd been sitting at the private corner table, the one reserved for VIP guests. She'd seen him there before, always alone or with one or two other men in similar expensive suits, always speaking in low voices, always leaving generous tips that he never waited around to be thanked for. "This is a staff issue," Marcus said, trying to salvage some authority. His voice wavered. "I'm handling it. You just struck a pregnant woman in front of 50 witnesses." The man's voice never rose above conversational volume, but somehow it filled the entire room. "That's not handling anything. That's assault. She broke. I don't care if she burned the place down." The man took one step forward. Just one. Marcus scrambled backward, nearly tripping over the broken porcelain. "You put your hands on her. You hurt her. And now you're going to face the consequences." Elena finally found her voice. "I'm fine," she said, even though her cheek was already swelling, even though she could feel tears tracking down her face. "Really? It's okay." The man's eyes flicked to her, and for just a moment, his expression softened. "Ma'am, with respect, it's not okay. And you don't have to say it is." He turned back to Marcus. "What's your name?" "That's none of your name." Something in the man's tone made Marcus's defiance crumble. "Marcus Chen. I'm the general manager here." "Not anymore." The man pulled out his phone, pressed one button, held it to his ear. "Michael, I'm at Giordano's, north location. Send a car and bring the paperwork." He paused, listening. "All of it." "Yes. 10 minutes." He ended the call and looked at Marcus with something close to pity. "You're going to want to call a lawyer." "Who the hell do you think you are?" Marcus's bravado was returning now that the immediate physical threat seemed to have passed. "You can't just—" "Lorenzo Russo." The name dropped into the conversation like a stone into still water. Elena's head snapped up. Russo. Her last name. But that was coincidence. Had to be. Italian names were common in Chicago, especially in Marcus, had gone pale. Actually pale. Like someone had drained the blood from his face. I own this restaurant." Lorenzo's voice remained calm, factual. "I own the building it's in. I own the parking structure across the street. And I just watched you assault one of my employees." He owned Giordano's. This man owned the restaurant where Elena had worked for 3 years. And she'd never known. Had never seen him except for those brief glimpses when he occupied the VIP table. And even then, she'd assumed he was just another wealthy customer. "Mr. Russo, I didn't—" Marcus was babbling now. "I didn't know you were here. If you'd known, you would have hit her somewhere without witnesses?" Lorenzo's eyebrow raised slightly. "That's not the defense you think it is." Victor had reached Elena's side, gently guiding her to a chair. She sank into it gratefully, her legs suddenly unreliable. Her hand stayed pressed to her belly, feeling for movement, needing the reassurance that the baby was okay. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Are you hurt? Lorenzo asked, addressing Elena directly now. Besides your face, did you fall? Did you? His eyes dropped to her belly, and understanding flickered across his features. We need to get you checked out. Hospital, now. I'm okay, Elena said automatically. Really, I didn't fall. I caught myself. Hospital, Lorenzo repeated, this time directing it at Victor. Take her. My car is outside. Black Mercedes. Tell the driver it's my orders. I can't just leave, Elena protested. My shift isn't over. I need to. Your shift is over. Lorenzo's attention swung back to Marcus. You're done for tonight. Actually, you're done permanently. But we'll get to that. A man in a dark suit had appeared from somewhere Elena hadn't seen him arrive. He moved with the kind of practiced invisibility that suggested security or bodyguard. He whispered something in Lorenzo's ear. Lorenzo nodded. Clear the dining room. Compensate everyone for their meals and their inconvenience. Double if they agree not to post about this on social media. He glanced at the room full of watching diners. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disturbance. Your dinners tonight are complimentary, courtesy of Giordano's management. We hope you'll allow us to serve you again soon under better circumstances. The spell broke. People started moving, gathering their things, whispering to each other in excited undertones. This would be the story they told at parties for months. The night they saw someone get slapped at Giordano's, the night Lorenzo Russo himself appeared like an avenging angel. Elena tried to stand, but her legs were still shaking. Victor caught her elbow, steadying her. Come on, he said gently. Let's get you looked at. The plates, Elena said, looking at the shattered porcelain still scattered across the floor. I need to clean. Someone else will handle it. Lorenzo was suddenly beside her, and up close, she could see the details she'd missed from across the room. The scar above his left eyebrow, the silver threading through his dark hair, the lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled sometimes, though he certainly wasn't smiling now. You need to make sure you and your baby are okay. That's the only priority right now. I can't afford, Elena started. It's covered. All of it. Hospital, any treatment you need, follow-up care. Giordano's insurance handles workplace injuries. His voice softened slightly. And this was definitely a workplace injury. Marcus made a sound, maybe protest, maybe just despair. Lorenzo ignored him completely. Mr. Chen, you're going to stay here until my legal team arrives. You're going to sign several documents, and then you're going to leave quietly and never return to any property I own in this city. Lorenzo's tone was conversational, like he was discussing the weather. If you fight this, if you try to make trouble, if you so much as think about contacting Elena again, I will bury you in litigation so deep you'll need a map to find sunlight. Are we clear? Marcus nodded, defeated. Good. Lorenzo turned back to Elena. His expression shifted again, that hardness melting into something almost gentle. Go to the hospital. Get checked out. Take tomorrow off. Take the week off if you need to. You'll be paid for all of it. I don't understand, Elena said, her voice small. Her cheek throbbed. Her hand hadn't left her belly. Why are you doing this? Lorenzo's jaw tightened. Because what he did was wrong. Because you're pregnant and he hit you. Because... He stopped himself, something flickering across his face too quickly for Elena to read. Because it's the right thing to do. That should be reason enough. Victor was guiding her toward the descent door. Elena let herself be led, too overwhelmed to protest further. Her mind was spinning, trying to process everything that had just happened. As they reached the entrance, she looked back. Lorenzo stood in the center of the dining room, surrounded by broken porcelain and watching staff. His dark suit immaculate, his expression unreadable. When his eyes met hers across the distance, something passed between them, recognition, maybe, or understanding. Then the door closed, and he was gone. The Mercedes was exactly where Lorenzo had said it would be. A sleek black sedan with a driver who took one look at Elena's swollen cheek and immediately had the back door open. Northwestern Memorial, Victor told the driver. Emergency entrance. As they pulled away from the curb, Elena caught one last glimpse of Giordano's through the tinted window. The restaurant she'd worked at for 3 years, served at, smiled at customers at, taken pride in. The restaurant that apparently belonged to a man who shared her last name. Lorenzo Russo. She pressed her fingers gently to her burning cheek and tried not to think about how her entire world had just shifted on its axis. The emergency room at Northwestern Memorial was surprisingly quiet for a Friday night. Elena sat in a private examination room. Apparently Lorenzo Russo's name carried weight even here, while a doctor with kind eyes and gentle hands checked her over. "Baby's heartbeat is strong, doctor," Sarah Chen said, moving the ultrasound wand across Elena's belly. The steady thump, thump, thump filled the small room. "No signs of distress. You did the right thing protecting yourself when you fell, or rather, when you didn't fall." Elena exhaled, relief flooding through her so intensely it made her dizzy. "She's okay?" "She's perfect, doctor." Chen smiled. "You knew you're having a girl? Just found out last week." Elena's hand found her belly again, that automatic protective gesture. "I haven't told anyone yet. I wanted to wait, until..." She stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence. Until what? Until her life was more stable? Until she had more money saved? Until she figured out how to be a single mother in one of America's most expensive cities? Dr. Chen was examining Elena's face now, gentle fingers probing the swollen cheek. "This is going to bruise pretty badly. The good news is nothing's broken. Ice it tonight. Ibuprofen is safe in your second trimester if the pain gets too bad. But Elena," her voice turned serious, "the man who did this to you, do you feel safe going home? Because if you don't, we have resources, shelters, legal advocates." "It wasn't my husband," Elena said quickly. "It was my boss, my manager, and I." She paused, processing. "I guess I don't work there anymore." "Good," Dr. Chen said firmly. "Any man who would strike a pregnant woman has no business managing anything, much less a restaurant full of vulnerable employees." After the examination, Victor drove Elena home in the Mercedes. The driver had been told to stay at their disposal. Apparently. Another order from Lorenzo Russo, the man who was systematically dismantling Elena's understanding of her own life. Her apartment was in a modest building in Pilsen, 3rd floor, 1 bedroom. It was all she could afford on a server's salary, even with the tips from Giordano's relatively wealthy clientele. Victor walked her up, made sure she got inside safely, and handed her a business card before he left. "This is the number for Giordano's corporate office," he said. "They said to call if you need anything." "And Elena." He hesitated. "That guy, Lorenzo Russo. I've seen him at the restaurant maybe a dozen times over the years. He's always quiet, always polite. But tonight, when he saw what Marcus did to you..." Victor shook his head. "I've never seen anyone go that still and that angry at the same time, like he was barely holding himself back from something much worse than just firing Marcus." "What do you mean?" Elena asked. "I mean," Victor said carefully, "Lorenzo Russo isn't just some restaurant owner. People talk. People say he's got connections. The kind you don't want to cross." He met her eyes. "I'm glad he was there tonight. But Elena, be careful. Men like that, they don't do favors for free. There's always a price." After he left, Elena stood in her tiny apartment and tried to process everything. Her cheek throbbed despite the ice pack. Her body ached from hours on her feet. Her mind spun with questions that had no answers. Lorenzo Russo. She pulled out her phone and did what anyone in the 21st century would do. She Googled him. The results were surprisingly sparse. A few mentions in business journals about restaurant acquisitions. One photo from a charity gala 3 years ago where he stood in the background, looking uncomfortable in a tux. Nothing about his personal life. Nothing about family. Nothing that explained why a man with obvious wealth and power had intervened so decisively when a manager slapped a server he shouldn't have even known existed. Elena set down her phone and looked around her apartment, at the second-hand furniture and the paint peeling in the corners. At the tiny nursery she was trying to put together in one corner of her bedroom, a crib from Facebook Marketplace, baby clothes from the thrift store, a mobile she'd made herself from felt and string. This was her life. Small, humble, but hers. She'd built it herself after her parents died when she was 22. After her ex-boyfriend had disappeared the second she told him she was pregnant, she'd survived on her own, and she'd keep surviving. But tonight had changed something. The moment Lorenzo Russo had stepped between her and Marcus, the moment he'd said, "I own this restaurant," with casual authority, something had shifted. Elena touched her belly, feeling the flutter of movement that meant her daughter was awake. "We're going to be okay," she whispered. "I promise. Whatever happens next, we're going to be okay." She just wished she believed it. Elena woke up Saturday morning to three things: a face that looked like she'd gone 10 rounds with a professional boxer, 17 missed calls from an unknown number, and a text message that made her heart stop. "This is Michael Santos, legal counsel for Russo Enterprises. Mr. Russo requests a meeting at your earliest convenience to discuss your employment situation and next steps. Please call this number when you're available. All medical expenses from last night have been covered." Elena sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the message. Through her bedroom window, pale morning light filtered in, making the dust motes dance. Her daughter kicked a strong, insistent movement that said, "I'm awake and I'm hungry." She should call. She knew she should call. But something about the formal language, the corporate efficiency of it, made her stomach twist with anxiety. Employment situation. That meant she really didn't work at Giordano's anymore, which meant she had no income, which meant her phone rang, the same unknown number from the missed calls. Elena answered before she could overthink it. "Hello? Miss Russo?" A man's voice, professional but not unkind. "This is Michael Santos. I apologize for calling so early, but Mr. Russo was concerned when you didn't respond to my text." "I just woke up," Elena said. Then, because her brain was still processing, "How did you get my number?" "From your employee file at Giordano's." A pause. "I realize this is all highly irregular. Would you be comfortable meeting today? Mr. Russo would like to speak with you personally." Every instinct, Elena had screamed that this was a bad idea. Men with power and money didn't summon pregnant servers to meetings out of pure altruism. Victor's warning echoed in her mind. There's always a price. But she also needed answers. And if she was being honest with herself, she needed to know what happened next. Because right now, her future looked like a black hole. "Where?" she asked. "There's a cafe on Ashland, near your apartment." "The Grindhouse?" "Mr. Russo suggested somewhere public, somewhere you'd feel comfortable." That surprised her. He was giving her choice, control. That wasn't what powerful men usually did, in her experience. "Okay," Elena heard herself say. "What time? Would 11 work? That gives you time to rest, have breakfast." 11 is fine. "Thank you, Miss Russo. Mr. Russo appreciates your willingness to meet." After he hung up, Elena sat in the silence of her apartment and tried to understand what was happening. This felt bigger than just a workplace incident. This felt like standing at the edge of something vast and complicated, and she had no idea whether stepping forward meant safety or disaster. She got up, made herself breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, nothing fancy, and tried to ignore the way her hands shook as she ate. At 10:45, Elena stood in front of her bathroom mirror and assessed the damage. The bruise on her cheek had bloomed into a spectacular purple-black, impossible to hide even with the concealer she'd carefully applied. Her eye was slightly swollen. She looked like exactly what she was, a woman who'd been hit. She dressed carefully, a loose navy dress that accommodated her belly, comfortable flats, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. Professional enough to meet whoever Lorenzo Russo really was. Casual enough that she didn't look like she was trying too hard. The Grindhouse was a 10-minute walk from her apartment. Elena arrived at 10:58, her heart hammering. Through the cafe's large windows, she could see him immediately. Lorenzo Russo sat at a corner table, dressed down from last night dark jeans, a black Henley, a leather jacket draped over the back of his chair. He looked different in daylight, younger maybe, though the silver in his hair suggested he was probably in his early 40s. He was reading something on his phone, a cup of coffee cooling beside him. Elena pushed through the door. A bell chimed. Lorenzo looked up, and their eyes met. He stood immediately, a gesture of respect that caught her off guard. Most men didn't stand when she approached anymore. Pregnancy had made her somehow less visible in certain ways, more visible in others. "Elena." He said her name like he'd said it before, like they were familiar. "Thank you for coming. Please, sit. Can I get you something? Coffee? Tea? They have excellent pastries here." "Hot chocolate," Elena said, mostly because she needed something to do with her hands. And maybe a croissant. Lorenzo signaled to the barista, a young woman who practically tripped over herself hurrying to their table. Hot chocolate and a croissant for the lady, and another espresso for me, please. When they were alone, he gestured to Elena's face. How are you feeling? The hospital cleared you and the baby? We're fine. Baby's heartbeat was strong. Nothing broken, just bruising. Elena folded her hands on the table, trying to project a calm she didn't feel. Mr. Russo, Lorenzo, please. Lorenzo. The name felt strange on her tongue. I need to understand what's happening. Your lawyer said we needed to discuss my employment situation, and She took a breath. I need to know if I'm being fired. Something flickered across Lorenzo's face. Surprise, maybe, or concern. Fired? No. God, no. Elena, you're the victim in this situation. I asked you here to discuss your options going forward. Options, Elena repeated. Marcus Chen was terminated last night. He also signed several legal documents acknowledging his assault, agreeing not to contest his dismissal, and waiving any right to sue Giordano's or you personally. Lorenzo's voice was calm, factual. He's also been permanently banned from all Russo Enterprises properties. If he comes near you, if he contacts you, if he so much as sends you a text message, he violates the agreement and faces both criminal and civil penalties. Elena's hot chocolate arrived. She wrapped her hands around the warm mug, grateful for something to anchor her. You did all that in one night? I have very efficient lawyers. Lorenzo's mouth quirked slightly, not quite a smile. Marcus made it easy by assaulting you in front of 50 witnesses. He had no leverage, no defense. He took the deal because the alternative was much worse. What was the alternative? Lorenzo's expression went cold, just for a moment. Criminal charges, a very public trial, and me using every resource at my disposal to make sure he never worked in this city again. He paused. I'm not a forgiving man when someone hurts people under my protection. Under my protection. The phrase hung in the air between them. I don't understand why you're doing this, Elena said quietly. You don't know me. I'm just a server was just a server. You own dozens of restaurants. Probably. Why do you care about what happened to one employee? Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying her face. Do you know why I was at Giordano's last night? The VIP table. You're there sometimes. I always assumed you were just a regular customer. I own 73 restaurants across Chicago, Lorenzo said. Giordano's was my first. I bought it 15 years ago when it was failing, turned it around, built an empire from that foundation. I try to visit each location at least once a month, unannounced. I want to see how they really operate, not the polished version they'd show me if they knew I was coming. He leaned forward slightly. Last night, I was sitting at that table doing exactly that, observing, watching how the staff interacted, how management treated employees, whether the kitchen ran smoothly. And I watched you. Elena's breath caught. I watched you work a 6-hour shift while 6 months pregnant. I watched you smile at customers even, though you were obviously exhausted. I watched you handle difficult tables with grace. Watched you help a younger server who was struggling with a complicated order. Lorenzo's voice softened. I watched you be kind, professional, and competent under conditions that would make most people quit. That's just the job, Elena said. No. That's you being exceptional at a job that doesn't pay you enough or appreciate you enough. He paused. And then I watched Marcus grab you. Watched him humiliate you in front of everyone. Watched him raise his hand to strike a pregnant woman. And Lorenzo stopped, his jaw tightening. I've seen a lot of things in my life, Elena. I've built businesses in a city that doesn't make it easy. But watching that man hit you triggered something in me I haven't felt in a long time. What? Elena whispered. Rage, Lorenzo said simply. Pure, uncomplicated rage. The kind that makes you want to do violence. Consequences be damned. He met her eyes. I didn't, obviously. I controlled myself. But for a moment there, I wanted to put Marcus through the nearest wall. The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Why are you telling me this? Elena asked. Because I want you to understand that my involvement isn't some corporate damage control exercise. This is personal for me. Lorenzo's fingers drummed once on the table, a nervous gesture that seemed out of place on a man who radiated such control. And because I'm about to make you an offer, and I want you to know it's coming from a genuine place, not manipulation. Elena's heart started racing again. What kind of offer? Lorenzo pulled a folder from his leather jacket and set it on the table between them. I want you to come work for me. Not as a server. As something more. Elena stared at the folder like it might bite her. I don't understand. I need someone to audit my restaurants. Someone who understands the business from the ground up. Who knows what it's really like to work front of house. Who can identify problems that corporate management misses. Lorenzo opened the folder, revealing printed documents. You've been at Giordano's for 3 years. Before that, you worked at 2 other restaurants. You have 8 years of experience in this industry. You noticed things I saw that last night, the way you were watching the room, tracking details. You want to hire me as an auditor? Elena's voice came out skeptical. I don't have a business degree. You have something better. Real experience and genuine integrity. Lorenzo slid the top document toward her. This is a job offer. Salary position, full benefits, health insurance that will cover your pregnancy and delivery, flexible hours because you'll set your own schedule. You'll visit my restaurants, observe operations, report directly to me about what you see the good and the bad. Elena looked down at the salary number and felt her stomach drop. It was 3 times what she made as a server. 3 times. This is too much, she said. This is why would you pay me this much to just watch restaurants? Because I'm paying you for your insight, your experience, and your honesty. Lorenzo's expression was serious. And because you're pregnant, and you need stability, and I have the resources to provide that. Call it enlightened self-interest. I get a valuable employee. You get security for you and your daughter. Elena's head snapped up. How did you know I'm having a girl? Lorenzo's expression flickered with something that might have been embarrassment. I called the hospital this morning to check on your condition. Dr. Chen mentioned it. I apologize if that was invasive. I was concerned. You called to check on me? Yes. At the hospital? Yes. Elena sat back, trying to process. This man, this wealthy, powerful man who owned 73 restaurants and carried himself like violence was always an option, had called the hospital to make sure she was okay. I need to ask you something, Elena said slowly. And I need you to be honest with me. Always. Last night, Victor, the bartender, he said you have connections. That you're not just a restaurant owner. Elena held Lorenzo's gaze. What did he mean? The cafe seemed to get quieter. Lorenzo's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air between them. A decision being made, a line being crossed. My family has been in Chicago for 4 generations, Lorenzo said carefully. We started with 1 restaurant in Little Italy, built from there. Along the way, we made alliances, business partnerships with people who operated in gray areas. We did what we had to do to survive and thrive in a city that doesn't reward weakness. Are you connected to organized crime? Elena asked directly. Lorenzo smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I run legitimate businesses, Elena. Every restaurant, every property I own is completely legal. Taxes, paid, permits in order, employees on the books. But yes, my family has history, relationships that predate me. I can't change where I came from or who my name is connected to. That's not a no. No, Lorenzo agreed. It's not. Elena should have been scared. Should have stood up, walked away, protected herself and her baby from whatever complicated, dangerous world this man inhabited. Instead, she found herself asking, if I work for you, does that put me in danger? No. Lorenzo's voice was absolutely certain. You'd be my employee, nothing more. You'd visit restaurants, write reports, collect a paycheck. The only people who'd know you work for me are my direct staff and the managers at each location. You'd be protected, Elena. That's not a promise I make lightly. Protected from what? From men like Marcus. From anyone who might think they can hurt someone under my employment without consequences. Lorenzo's eyes were hard now. That cold calculation she'd seen last night. You'd be untouchable. That's what working for me means. Elena looked down at the contract. At the salary that would change her life. At the benefits that would mean her daughter could have actual health care. That Elena wouldn't have to worry about how to pay for delivery. That she could afford to take maternity leave without panicking about rent. Why me? She asked again. Really, There has to be more to it than just thinking I'd be good at the job. Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd heard it. 15 years ago, I was married. Her name was Gabriella. She was pregnant with our first child, a son. We'd picked out names, decorated the nursery, planned our entire future. He paused, and Elena saw grief flicker across his face. She was 8 months pregnant when she went into a grocery store to pick up ingredients for dinner. There was a robbery. The gunman panicked. Gabriella was caught in the crossfire. Elena's hand went to her belly automatically, a gesture of protection and solidarity. She died instantly. So did our son. Lorenzo's voice remained steady, but Elena could hear the effort it took. And I learned something that day. The world is full of men who think they can hurt women without consequences. Men who think pregnancy makes someone weaker instead of stronger. Men who see vulnerability and exploit it. He met her eyes. When I saw Marcus hit you last night, when I saw you protecting your belly even as he struck you, something in me broke open. I couldn't save Gabriella, but I could save you. And maybe that's selfish. Maybe that's me trying to rewrite history, but I don't care. I'm offering you this job because you deserve it, and because I need to know that at least one pregnant woman in this city is protected. Tears burned in Elena's eyes. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Just consider the offer. Lorenzo pushed the folder closer. Take it home. Read through everything. Talk to Riley. A lawyer if you want, I'll pay for one if you need. But Elena, please understand, this isn't charity. This isn't me trying to ease my conscience. This is me recognizing talent and offering you an opportunity. You can say no. You can walk away right now, and I'll still make sure you get 3 months severance from Giordano's. But if you say yes, if I say yes, then you become part of my operation. And I take care of my people. Always. Elena picked up the folder with trembling hands. Inside was the formal offer letter, a benefits package that was almost obscenely generous, and a list of the 73 restaurants she'd be responsible for monitoring. I need to think about it, she said. Of course. Take the weekend. Call Michael on Monday with your answer. Lorenzo stood, pulling his leather jacket back on. And Elena, whether you take the job or not, you're protected. That doesn't change. If Marcus contacts you, if anyone threatens you, you call me immediately. He pulled out a business card black, with simple silver lettering. His name, 1 phone number. That's my personal cell, he said. Not many people have it. Use it if you need anything. After he left, Elena sat in the cafe for another 20 minutes, staring at the business card and the contract, and trying to understand how her life had changed so completely in less than 24 hours. A job that would solve all her financial problems, protection from a man who clearly wielded power she couldn't fully comprehend. And underneath it all, a grief so profound that it made him intervene in the life of a complete stranger just because she reminded him of what he'd lost. Elena pressed her hand to her belly, feeling her daughter move. What do we do? She whispered. The baby kicked strong, insistent, alive. Elena picked up the folder and walked home. The weekend passed in a blur of indecision. Elena read the contract so many times, she had sections memorized. She Googled Lorenzo Russo, again, finding more this time articles about his restaurants. A few mentions in Chicago Magazine's Power 100 list. One profile piece from 5 years ago that mentioned his late wife in passing, but gave no details. She also found what she'd been afraid of. Vague mentions of his family's rumored connections to organized crime. Though nothing concrete, nothing proven. The Russo name appeared in a few old newspaper articles from the 80 seconds and 90 seconds, always peripheral to bigger stories about mob activity in Chicago. Never directly implicated. On Sunday evening, Elena sat in her tiny apartment and made a list, the way her mother had taught her to when facing big decisions. Reasons to say no. Potentially dangerous connections. Too good to be true. Don't really know Lorenzo Russo. Could be setting myself up for something worse. Reasons to say yes. Salary solves immediate financial crisis. Health insurance for pregnancy, delivery, legitimate job, doing something I'm actually good at, protection. Whatever that really means. Lorenzo seemed genuine about his grief. Baby needs stability. Elena stared at the lists. The logical choice was obvious, she needed this job. But logic didn't account for the knot of anxiety in her stomach, the voice that kept whispering, "This is too much, too fast, too convenient." Her phone rang. Unknown number, but not the one Michael Santos had called from. "Hello? Elena Russo?" A woman's voice, professional but warm. "My name is Sofia Castellano. I'm the HR director for Russo Enterprises. I apologize for calling on a Sunday evening, but Lorenzo asked me to reach out to answer any questions you might have about the job offer." "Oh," Elena said, caught off guard. Yes, actually. I have questions." "Wonderful. Please, ask me anything." "Is this job real?" Elena blurted out. "I mean, does the position actually exist, or was it created just for me?" Sofia laughed, not unkindly. "Both. Actually, Lorenzo has been wanting to implement an audit program for about 2 years now. But he's been looking for the right person. Someone who understands restaurants from the inside, who has integrity, who can observe without being obvious about it. When he told me about you, about your experience and how you handled yourself at Giordano's, I told him you sounded perfect. You're not just saying that because he's your boss?" "Elena, I've worked for Lorenzo Russo for 8 years. In that time, he's never once asked me to lie or manipulate a candidate. If I thought you weren't right for the position, I'd tell him." Sofia's voice softened. "He also told me about your situation, the pregnancy, the assault. I want you to know that if you take this job, you'll have full support. Flexible scheduling, work from home options when needed, maternity leave that exceeds state requirements." Why is he being so generous? Because he can afford to be, and because he values loyalty. Treat people well, they stay. They work harder, they protect. Your business. It's not charity, Elena. It's good business sense. They talked for another 30 minutes. Sofia walked Elena through every detail of the benefits package, explained the audit process, described what a typical work week would look like. By the end, the job sounded not just real, but perfect, challenging enough to be interesting, flexible enough to accommodate pregnancy and new motherhood. "One more question," Elena said. "The contract mentions that I'd report directly to Lorenzo. Is that normal?" "For this position, yes. The whole point is having someone he trusts, giving him unfiltered information about his restaurants. That requires a direct reporting relationship." Sofia paused. "I know Lorenzo can be intense. But he's fair, Elena. And he's genuinely invested in his employees' well-being. I've never felt pressured or uncomfortable working for him." After they hung up, Elena sat with her hands on her belly and felt her daughter moving, restless. "Okay," she said, out loud. "Okay, we're doing this." She picked up her phone and texted the number Michael Santos had given her. "I accept the offer. When do I start?" The response came within 2 minutes. "Excellent news. Can you come to the office tomorrow at 10 a.m. to complete paperwork? Address below. And Miss Russo, welcome to Russo Enterprises." Elena set down her phone and looked around her tiny apartment. In 1 week, she'd been assaulted by her boss, defended by a stranger, offered a job that seemed impossible, and accepted it despite every logical reason to be cautious. She should have been terrified. Instead, for the first time in months, she felt something that might have been hope. Russo Enterprises headquarters was not what Elena expected. She'd imagined a gleaming downtown office tower, all glass and steel and intimidation. Instead, the address led her to a renovated warehouse in the West Loop, brick and exposed beams and industrial chic, but somehow warm. The lobby had comfortable furniture, artwork that looked expensive but not showy, and a receptionist who smiled genuinely when Elena gave her name. "Elena Russo." "Yes, we're expecting you. I'm Marissa. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? We have tea if you prefer. Water is fine, thank you." Marissa handed her a bottle of sparkling water, the expensive kind Elena had seen at Giordano's but never bought for herself. "Sofia will be right with you. Please, have a seat. And congratulations on the baby. How far along are you?" 6 months. My sister just had her second. She said the 3rd trimester was the hardest, but also the most exciting. Marissa's warmth was infectious. "Do you know what you're having?" "A girl." "Oh, how wonderful. Have you picked a name?" Before Elena could answer, a woman emerged from a hallway mid-40s, dark hair in a sleek bob, wearing a burgundy pantsuit that screamed competence. "Elena? I'm Sofia. So glad to finally meet you in person." She extended her hand. "Come, on back." We have paperwork to get through, but I promise I'll make it as painless as possible. Sophia's office was organized chaos files stacked neatly on every surface. A whiteboard covered in schedules, photos of what looked like family scattered among the work detritus. She gestured Elena to a comfortable chair and pulled out a massive folder. This looks intimidating, but most of it is standard employment forms. Tax documents, direct deposit information, benefits enrollment, NDA. NDA? Elena interrupted. Non-disclosure agreement. You'll be observing operations at all of Lorenzo's restaurants, which means you'll see financial information, management structures, things that competitors would love to know. Standard practice. Sophia pulled out the document. Basically, it says you won't share proprietary information with outside parties. It doesn't prevent you from reporting illegal activity or anything like that. We're not asking you to cover up problems. Elena read through the NDA carefully. It was surprisingly straightforward. Exactly what Sophia had described. They spent the next hour working through documents. Sophia was efficient but patient, explaining anything Elena questioned, never making her feel stupid for asking. Now, Sophia said when they'd finished the administrative paperwork, let's talk about your actual role. You'll start by visiting each restaurant once, just to get a baseline. Lorenzo wants you to observe the full operation, how management treats staff, how staff interacts with customers, whether safety protocols are followed, general atmosphere. You'll write up a report after each visit. How detailed do the reports need to be? As detailed as you feel necessary. Lorenzo doesn't want sanitized corporate speak. He wants truth. Sophia pulled up a sample template on her computer. Some of our managers are excellent, some are mediocre. Some, like Marcus, are actively harmful. Lorenzo can't fix problems he doesn't know about. What happens to managers who get bad reports? Depends on the issue. If it's something correctable, poor training, unclear policies, Lorenzo works with them to improve. If it's something fundamental harassment, theft, serious mistreatment of staff, they're removed. Sophia's expression turned serious. I won't lie to you, Elena. Some people will resent you. Once word gets out that Lorenzo has someone auditing operations, some managers will see you as a threat. You'll need to be careful, discreet. Will they know who I am? No. You'll introduce yourself as a customer most of the time. Only the general managers will know you work for Lorenzo, and only if there's an issue that requires immediate intervention. Sophia handed Elena a company credit card. Use this for all meals during audits. Keep receipts, and Elena, order whatever you want. The point is to experience each restaurant the way a real customer would. Elena looked at the black credit card with her name, embossed in silver letters. This was real. This was actually happening. When do I start? Whenever you're ready. Tomorrow if you want, or take a few days to prepare. You're 6 months pregnant. Lorenzo made it very clear that your health comes first. Sophia smiled. His words were, if she needs to work from her couch with her feet up, that's fine. I need her brain, not her physical presence. Something warm unfurled in Elena's chest. He said that? He did. He also said. Sophia paused, then seemed to decide to continue. He said that you remind him of someone important, and that he needs you to be safe and supported because he failed to protect her. Elena's throat tightened. His wife. Sophia's eyes widened slightly. He told you about Gabriella? A little. At the cafe. About what happened. Then you understand. Sophia's voice dropped. Lorenzo doesn't let many people in, Elena. What happened to Gabriella changed him in fundamental ways. Made him harder, more careful, but also more protective of the people he considers his. If he's claimed you as part of his operation, you're family now. That comes with benefits and responsibilities. What responsibilities? Loyalty, discretion, trust. Sophia met her eyes. Lorenzo takes care of his people, but he expects the same in return. If you see problems, you report them to him, not to outside authorities, not unless he tells you to. If someone threatens you, you tell him immediately. If you need help, you ask. Clear communication, absolute honesty. That's what he requires. Elena nodded slowly. I can do that. Good. Sophia stood, signaling the meeting was ending. Start with Giordano's, actually. I know it might be difficult going back there, but Lorenzo wants you to observe how things are running under the interim manager. Make sure the culture is improving. Who's the interim manager? Victor Chen, the bartender. Elena's eyebrows shot up. Victor was promoted? Lorenzo. Promoted him this morning. Figured someone who stood up for you when Marcus was being violent probably has good instincts about management. Sophia smiled. Victor doesn't know you're auditing yet, so it'll be a real test of how he runs things. As Elena left Sophia's office, she nearly collided with someone in the hallway. A man in his 40s, tall and lean, with watchful eyes, and the kind of presence that suggested he missed nothing. Sorry, Elena said automatically. My fault. The man's eyes flicked to her belly, then her bruised face faded now to yellow-green, but still visible, and his expression hardened. You're Elena. Yes? Michael Santos. We spoke on the phone. He extended his hand. I'm glad you're here. Lorenzo speaks very highly of you. We just met, Elena said, confused. Doesn't matter. When Lorenzo Russo decides someone is important, timing is irrelevant. Michael's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Can I give you some advice? Okay. Lorenzo has built everything you see here through careful strategy and absolute loyalty. He protects his people fiercely, but he also expects them to be honest with him. Always. Even when it's uncomfortable. Michael's gaze was intense. You see something wrong, you tell him. You hear something concerning, you tell him. You feel threatened, you tell him. Got it? Sophia said the same thing. Because it's important. Lorenzo can only protect you if he knows you need protection. Michael stepped back. Welcome to Russo Enterprises. Elena, I think you're going to fit in just fine. After he left, Elena stood in the hallway and tried to process everything. This wasn't just a job. This was an initiation into something bigger, more complex. A world where loyalty mattered more than qualifications, where protection was promised but also required reciprocation. She should have felt trapped. Instead, she felt seen, valued, important. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Sophia said you finished paperwork. How are you feeling about everything? Lorenzo Elena stared at the text. He was checking in, personally, not through assistants or intermediaries. She typed back, nervous but good. Thank you for this opportunity. The response came immediately. You earned it. Trust yourself. And Elena, call if you need anything. I meant what I said about protection. Elena saved his number and walked out of Russo Enterprises headquarters into the cool October afternoon. In 1 week, she'd lost a job, gained a better one, and somehow become part of Lorenzo Russo's inner circle. The question she couldn't answer. Was this the best decision she'd ever made? Or the most dangerous? Only time would tell. Elena's first audit was scheduled for Thursday evening at Giordano's. 3 days to prepare, to research, to convince herself she could walk back into the restaurant where she'd been humiliated and assaulted and act like a normal customer. Sophia had sent her detailed guidelines. Observe. Everything. Write down nothing in the moment. Trust her memory and instincts. Look for how staff interacted with each other when they thought no one important was watching. Notice whether safety protocols were followed. Pay attention to the small cruelties that management often dismissed as just how restaurants work. Wednesday afternoon, Elena sat in her apartment reviewing the notes she'd made about Giordano's culture over her 3 years there. Marcus had created an environment of fear. Servers who made mistakes were publicly humiliated. Kitchen staff were overworked and underpaid. Anyone who questioned his decisions found their shifts mysteriously cut. She wondered if Victor could change that in less than a week, or if the rot went too deep. Her phone rang. Lorenzo's number. Hello? Elena. How's preparation going for tomorrow? His voice was warm, concerned. She'd learned over the past few days that he checked in frequently, a text in the morning, a call in the evening, making sure she had everything she needed. Good. Nervous, but good. Understandable. First audit is always the hardest, especially when it's a location with complicated history for you. A pause. I want you to know that if you walk in there and it feels wrong, if you're not comfortable, you can leave. No judgment. I need to do this, Elena said. For myself. To prove I can go back there and not fall apart. You're stronger than you think. Lorenzo's voice softened. But strength isn't about forcing yourself through trauma. It's about knowing your limits and respecting them. Did Sophia tell you I was nervous? She mentioned it. I also know what it's like to revisit a place where something terrible happened. A pause, heavy with meaning. The grocery store where Gabriella died is 3 blocks from my house. I drove past it every day for 5 years before I could make myself go inside. When I finally did, I bought a gallon of milk and left. Small steps, Elena. That's all. Healing ever is. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you for understanding. Always. And Elena, one more thing. I'll be at Giordano's tomorrow night. Not at the VIP table. I'll be in the bar area, far enough away that you won't feel watched, close enough that I'm there if you need me. Just knowing that might help. After they hung up, Elena sat with her hand on her belly and marveled at how quickly Lorenzo Russo had become a presence in her life. 4 days since the assault, and already he felt like someone she could count on, someone who understood vulnerability because he'd lived through it himself. That night, she dreamed about her parents. Her mother, who'd worked 2 jobs to send Elena to culinary school before Elena realized she preferred front-of-house service. Her father, who'd taught her that dignity wasn't about what job you had but how you treated people. Both dead 3 years now. A car accident on the Dan Ryan Expressway, gone in an instant. What would they think of Lorenzo Russo? Of this job that felt too good to be true? Of their daughter accepting help from a man with rumored connections to organized crime? Elena woke Thursday morning without answers, but with determination. Giordano's looked exactly the same from the outside. Elegant signage, warm light spilling from the windows, the promise of good food and better wine. Elena stood across the street at 6:45 p.m., watching staff arrive for the dinner shift, and tried to calm her racing heart. She dressed carefully, a black maternity dress that was elegant without being showy, comfortable flats, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked like any other pregnant woman out for a nice dinner, which was exactly the point. Her phone buzzed. Lorenzo, you've got this. I'm already inside, bar area, back corner. You won't see me unless you look for me. Elena took a deep breath and crossed the street. The hostess was new, a young woman Elena didn't recognize, which was good. Good. Evening. Do you have a reservation? No, but I'm hoping you have something available. Just me. Let me check. The hostess scanned her tablet. We have a 2-top near the window, or a booth if you prefer more privacy. Booth, please. Elena followed her through the dining room, acutely aware of everything. The tables were full, which was normal for Thursday. The servers moved with practiced efficiency. The soft jazz playing overhead was the same playlist Marcus had insisted on. Even the smell was familiar, garlic and wine and money. She didn't look toward the bar, but she felt Lorenzo's presence there like a compass needle finding north. Her booth was perfect good sightline to most of the dining room, positioned so she could observe without being obvious. The hostess handed her a menu and left. Elena opened the menu and tried to focus on it, but her eyes kept scanning the room. There was Jessica, one of the senior servers who'd always been kind. There was Antonio, the sommelier who'd helped Elena study wine varietals when she'd wanted to move up to fine dining service. There was the service station, where she'd stood when Marcus grabbed her arm. Her hand went to her cheek automatically, touching where the bruise had been. Good evening. A server appeared, male, mid-20s, someone Elena didn't recognize. My name is David. I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I start you with something to drink? Sparkling water, please. And Elena scanned the appetizers. The burrata to start. Excellent choice. I'll get that order in right away. As David walked away, Elena started her real work. Observation. The staff seemed different. Lighter, maybe. Jessica was laughing with Antonio near the wine display. A younger server probably knew made a mistake with a table number, and instead of being yelled at, another server quietly corrected her with a smile. The kitchen door swung open and closed with its usual chaos, but there was no tension in the air, no fear. 10 minutes into her observation, Victor emerged from the back. He looked different, as a manager still wearing his bartender's vest, but carrying himself with new authority. He stopped at a table where an elderly couple seemed confused about their bill, crouched down to their level so he wasn't towering over them, and patiently explained the charges. The couple smiled, thanked him, visibly relaxed. That never would have happened with Marcus. Marcus would have been defensive, dismissive, made them feel stupid for questioning anything. Elena's burrata arrived creamy and perfect, served with grilled bread and a drizzle of aged balsamic. She ate slowly, watching. A server dropped a fork. Instead of panicking, she just picked it up, grabbed a clean one from the service station, and continued without breaking stride. No one yelled at her. A customer sent back a steak for being overcooked. David took it gracefully, apologized, promised a replacement, immediately. Elena watched him go to the kitchen, and through the small window, she saw him explain the situation to the line cook. No yelling, no blame, just problem solving. This was what a restaurant could be when fear wasn't the primary management tool. Elena was finishing her appetizer when she heard raised voices from the other side of the dining room. A man in an expensive suit was standing at his table, his face red, gesturing angrily. His companion, a younger woman who looked mortified, was trying to calm him down. "This is unacceptable," the man shouted loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. "I've been coming here for years, and this is the service I get?" Victor was already moving toward the table, his expression calm but focused. Elena watched as he approached, that same crouched posture he'd used with the elderly couple, making himself less threatening. "Sir, I'm Victor Chen, the general manager. I understand you're upset. Can you tell me what happened?" "What happened is your server." The man jabbed a finger at Jessica. "Forgot my wife's dietary restrictions. The dish came out with shellfish. She's allergic. She could have died." Jessica's face had gone white. Elena knew her well enough to know she'd never make that kind of mistake. She was meticulous about allergies, had saved Elena from serving peanut sauce to an allergic customer once. "I'm so sorry," Jessica said, her voice shaking. "I inputted the allergy into the system. I double-checked with the kitchen." "I don't understand what you don't understand? That's your excuse?" The man's voice rose higher. "My wife could be in the hospital right now." "Sir," Victor said, his voice calm but firm, "I need you to lower your voice. This is a public space, and you're disturbing other diners. I'll disturb whoever I want. Do you know who I am?" "No, sir, I don't. But I know that yelling at my staff isn't going to solve the problem." Victor gestured toward the back. "Why don't we discuss this in my office, where we can review what happened and figure out how to make this right?" "I don't want to discuss anything. I want this server fired. Now." The entire restaurant had gone quiet. Everyone was watching staff frozen, customers craning to see, the tension thick enough to cut. Elena's hand tightened around her water glass. This was a test. How Victor handled this would determine what kind of manager he really was. "That's not going to happen," Victor said quietly. "Jessica is an excellent server who takes allergies very seriously. If there was an error, we'll investigate it and correct our procedures. But I don't fire staff to appease angry customers, especially when I don't have all the information." The man's face went from red to purple. "Then I want to speak to the owner. Get me Lorenzo Russo." "Now." Elena's breath caught. She glanced toward the bar area, where she could just make out Lorenzo's silhouette in the corner. He hadn't moved, was still, nursing what looked like a whiskey, apparently content to let Victor handle this. "Mr. Russo isn't available," Victor said. "But I'm authorized to make decisions about—" "Not good enough. You get him on the phone or I'm calling the health department. I'll shut this place down." Victor's expression didn't change, but Elena saw his jaw tighten. "Sir, threatening my restaurant isn't going to—" "Victor!" Lorenzo's voice cut across the dining room. He'd stood up from the bar, was walking toward the confrontation with that same controlled purpose Elena remembered from the night he'd defended her. "I'll handle this." Every head in the restaurant swiveled to watch. Lorenzo reached the table and looked at the angry customer with an expression that was polite on the surface but cold underneath. "I'm Lorenzo Russo. I understand you have a complaint." The man seemed momentarily thrown by actually getting what he'd demanded. "Your server nearly killed my wife. I want her fired. I want a full refund, and I want compensation for emotional distress. Let me see the dish." Lorenzo gestured to the plate still sitting on the table. He picked it up, examined it, then lifted it to his nose and inhaled. "This is the sea bass. There's no shellfish in this dish. Never has been. There was a shrimp garnish. We don't garnish sea bass with shrimp." Wrong flavor profile entirely. Lorenzo set down the plate and looked at the man with those cold, calculating eyes. "What's your name?" "Richard Davidson." "I'm a regular here." "No, you're not. I reviewed tonight's reservations personally this afternoon, and your name wasn't on them." In fact, Lorenzo pulled out his phone, tapped a few times. "You've never made a reservation here. Not once. So either you're lying about being a regular, or you made a reservation under a different name." Which is it? Davidson's bluster deflated slightly. My wife made the reservation. Under her name. What's her name? Sarah Thompson. Lorenzo tapped his phone again. We have a Sarah Thompson reservation, party of 2, for 7:30. It's currently 7:45. You're 15 minutes late for your own reservation, which you claimed someone else made, at a restaurant you claim to be a regular at, but have never actually visited before tonight. He paused. Mr. Davidson, are you trying to scam my restaurant? The accusation hung in the air. Davidson's face went from purple to pale. I'm not. This is outrageous. This is careful management, Lorenzo corrected. We take allergies seriously at every Russo establishment. Every allergy is logged in our system with multiple redundancies. The kitchen staff is trained to double-check every ticket. And the sea bass you ordered has never, in the 15 years I've owned this restaurant, been plated with shellfish of any kind. He leaned forward slightly, and his voice dropped to something quieter, but infinitely more dangerous. So, either you're lying about the allergy to get a free meal, or you brought in outside food, contaminated the dish yourself, and are now trying to blame my staff. Either way, you're done. You can't, I can. This is my restaurant. You're creating a hostile environment. You've threatened my staff, and you've made false accusations that could damage this establishment's reputation. Lorenzo gestured toward the door. Leave, now, and don't come back to any Russo property. You're permanently banned. Davidson stood up, his chair scraping back. You'll regret this. I'll write reviews. I'll tell everyone. You'll do whatever you want. I'll be too busy running a successful restaurant to care. Lorenzo's expression didn't change. Your wife looks embarrassed, Mr. Davidson. Maybe she has better sense than you. I suggest you listen to her more often. The woman, Sarah, apparently had indeed turned bright red and was gathering her things hastily. She mouthed, sorry, to Jessica as she stood, then practically dragged her husband toward the exit. The door closed behind them. Silence held for another beat. Then the entire restaurant erupted in applause. Customers clapped. Staff cheered. Jessica looked like she might cry from relief. Lorenzo held up a hand, and the noise died down. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption. Please, enjoy your meals. Everything at Mr. Davidson's table is on the house tonight. More applause. Lorenzo turned to Victor and Jessica, his voice dropping so only they and Elena, who was close enough to hear, could catch it. Victor, good job standing your ground. Don't ever fire staff to appease bullies. He looked at Jessica. You okay? Yes, sir. Thank you. I was so scared. You don't have to be scared anymore. Not here. Lorenzo's voice was gentle. New rule, effective immediately. Any customer who threatens, yells at, or attempts to intimidate my staff gets one warning. If they continue, they're removed. No debate. You're not punching bags. You're professionals doing difficult work, and you deserve respect. Jessica wiped at her eyes. Marcus would have fired me. Marcus doesn't work here anymore. Lorenzo glanced around the dining room, his eyes briefly meeting Elena's before moving on. This is what Giordano's is going to be from now on. A place where staff are protected, where customers are held to standards of decency, where no one has to tolerate abuse in exchange for a paycheck. He turned back to Victor. We'll talk later about updating protocols, but you handled that perfectly. Keep it up. Then he walked back to the bar, picked up his drink, and returned to his corner as if nothing had happened. The restaurant slowly returned to normal. Conversations resumed. Servers went back to work with renewed energy. Elena sat in her booth and tried to process what she'd just witnessed. Lorenzo Russo had defended his staff publicly, had exposed a scam artist, had set a new standard for how his restaurant would operate all, without raising his voice or resorting to threats. He'd done with calm authority what Marcus could never have done with all his yelling and intimidation. This was leadership. Real leadership. David returned to check on her. Ready to order your entree? Or do you need a few more minutes after all that excitement? The excitement was actually the most interesting part, Elena said, smiling. I'll have the braised short ribs. Excellent choice. And can I just say, David leaned in conspiratorially, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Mr. Russo just became my hero. After he left, Elena pulled out her phone and started typing notes in a secure document Sophia had set up for her. Giordano's. Thursday evening. New management under Victor Chen showing immediate positive changes. Staff morale significantly improved. Fear culture eliminated. Manager defended employee against abusive customer. Owner present and intervened when necessary, setting clear boundaries about acceptable customer behavior. Recommend continuing with Victor as permanent GM. Culture transformation happening faster than expected. She paused, then added, Lorenzo Russo's presence creates immediate positive change. Staff respond to his leadership. Customers respect his authority. He leads by example, calm, firm, fair. This is the standard all Russo establishments should meet. Elena finished her short ribs perfectly cooked, melting off the bone, and watched the rest of the service. Victor checked on every table personally. Staff helped each other without being asked. The kitchen ran smoothly. This was how restaurants should operate. When she asked for the check, David returned with a confused expression. I'm sorry, ma'am, but your meal has been taken care of. The manager said it's covered. Oh, I have a company card. Covered, David repeated. Completely. Mr. Chen's instructions were very clear. Elena smiled. Victor knew. Somehow, he knew she was there for more than just dinner. She left a generous cash tip for David and gathered her things. On her way out, she passed the bar area. Lorenzo was still there, still nursing the same drink, but his eyes tracked her movement. Their gazes met. He raised his glass slightly. Acknowledgement. Question. Elena nodded. I'm okay. You were right. I could do this. His expression softened into something that might have been pride. Elena walked out of Giordano's into the cool October night and felt something shift in her chest. This job was real. The protection Lorenzo had promised was real. The change he was implementing across his restaurants was real. For the first time since her parents died, Elena felt like she was part of something bigger than just survival. Her phone buzzed. Lorenzo. You did well tonight. Proud of you. Go home. Rest. We'll talk tomorrow about your observations. Elena saved the message and walked to the L station, her daughter kicking contentedly in her belly. The next morning, Elena met Lorenzo at his office in the West Loop. She'd written a full report the night before, emailed it to him at 2 a.m. when she couldn't sleep, her mind too full of observations and insights. Now she sat across from him at the small conference table in his office, watching him read her report on his tablet, his expression thoughtful. This is excellent work, he said finally. Detailed, specific, actionable. You noticed things I would have missed. I was a server there for 3 years. I knew what to look for. It's more than that. Lorenzo set down the tablet. You understand people. You see how power dynamics affect behavior, how fear creates dysfunction, how leadership, real leadership, transforms culture. He leaned back in his chair. Victor's performance last night exceeded my expectations. Your recommendation to make him permanent GM? I'm taking it. He's good for that restaurant, Elena said. The staff already respects him. He stood up for me when Marcus was violent. And last night he stood up for Jessica. That kind of courage matters. It does. Lorenzo was quiet for a moment. What you wrote about my intervention, about setting standards for customer behavior, that's important. I want you to help me develop that into policy across all locations. No more the customer is always right culture. Customers who abuse staff get removed. Period. Some managers will resist that. They'll worry about losing business. Then they're not the right managers for my restaurants. Lorenzo's voice was firm. I built this empire one restaurant at a time, Elena. I did it by treating people with dignity, staff, and customers. But somewhere along the way, I got too distant. I delegated too much. I let men like Marcus create toxic environments because I wasn't paying close enough attention. He met her eyes. You're helping me fix that. And I'm grateful. Elena felt warmth spread through her chest. I'm just doing my job. No, you're doing more than that. Lorenzo stood, pacing to the window that overlooked the Chicago River. Last night, watching you walk into Giordano's even though you were terrified, watching you observe everything with such careful attention, watching you be brave. He stopped, his back to her. Gabriella would have liked you. Elena's breath caught. That's a high compliment. It's the truth. Lorenzo turned back to face her. She was brave too. Stubborn, brilliant, refused to let anyone tell her she couldn't do something. She would have looked at you 6 months pregnant, working despite being assaulted, building a future for your daughter on your own, and she would have said you were exactly the kind of woman the world needs more of. Tears pricked Elena's eyes. I wish I could have met her. She would have liked your fire, The way you don't back down even when you're scared. Lorenzo returned to his seat. I want to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Do you feel safe? Working for me, being part of this organization, knowing what you know about my family's history? Elena considered the question carefully. I feel safer than I've felt in years. You've protected me, given me opportunities, treated me with respect. Whatever your family's history is, whatever connections you have, they haven't touched me except to make my life better. And if that changes, if someday those connections affect you negatively, then I trust you to handle it. Elena held his gaze. You told me you take care of your people. I believe you. Something shifted in Lorenzo's expression, relief maybe, or gratitude. Thank you for that trust. I don't take it lightly. I know. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Outside, the city moved, cars honking, people rushing, the endless rhythm of Chicago. Next audit is Tuesday, Lorenzo said, pulling up a schedule. Allegra, the Italian place in River North. Different vibe from Giordano's younger crowd, more casual. The GM there is Maria Cortez. She's been with me for 5 years, came up through the ranks. I want to know if she's ready for more responsibility. More responsibility like what? Like regional director. Someone who oversees multiple locations, handles training, maintains standards. Lorenzo smiled slightly. Someone like you, actually. But with more time in the organization. Elena blinked. You see me becoming a regional director? I see you becoming whatever you want to be in this organization, Elena. You're smart, observant, and people trust you. That's rare. He paused. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. One audit at a time. Learn the business, find your rhythm, figure out what aspects you love and what aspects you hate. I don't think I hate any of it so far. Give it time. Lorenzo's smile turned rueful. Wait until you have to fire your first manager. That's when the job gets hard. They spent the next hour discussing audit strategies, what to know, look for at different types of establishments, how to handle staff who might recognize her from Giordano's. Lorenzo was patient, thorough, answering every question Elena had with the kind of detailed knowledge that came from decades in the industry. At noon, Sophia knocked on the door. Sorry to interrupt, but Lorenzo, you have that meeting with the investors in 15 minutes. Cancel it. I what? Lorenzo, this is the Streeterville project. They flew in from New York. Reschedule. I'm not done here yet. Sophia's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. I'll handle it. After she left, Elena stared at Lorenzo. You just canceled a meeting with New York investors. For me. They can wait. This is more important. Lorenzo's expression was serious. Elena, I need you to understand something. Building this organization right, creating the culture I want that's more valuable than any real estate deal. Those investors want my money and my name. You're helping me build something that actually matters. I'm just one person. You're the foundation. Lorenzo interrupted. Everything else is built on top of what you're helping me create. So yes, those investors can wait. You can't. Elena felt her throat tighten with emotion. No one had ever prioritized her like this. Not her ex-boyfriend, who'd disappeared at the first sign of responsibility. Not her previous bosses, who'd seen her as replaceable. Not even her parents, who'd loved her but also expected her to handle everything on her own. Lorenzo Russo saw her value, and he rearranged his empire to honor it. Thank you, she said quietly. Don't thank me. Just keep being excellent. That weekend, Elena's life found a new rhythm. Saturday she spent preparing for the Tuesday audit, researching Allegra, reading online reviews, studying the menu. Sunday she worked on her apartment's nursery, finally having enough money to buy a new crib instead of the rickety second-hand one she'd planned on. She was painting the walls a soft yellow when her phone rang. Unknown number, but Chicago area code. Hello? Elena Russo? A woman's voice, nervous, young. Yes? This is Maria Cortez. I'm the general manager at Allegra. She paused. I know you're coming to audit on Tuesday, Sophia told me. Elena's stomach clenched. This wasn't supposed to happen. Managers weren't supposed to know in advance. Maria, please, just let me explain. I'm not calling to prepare or cover things up. I'm calling because, Maria's voice broke slightly, because I'm grateful. What Lorenzo did at Giordano's, standing up for that server, It's already changing how managers across the organization operate. We're talking about it. We're learning from it. And I wanted you to know that at Allegra, we already operate that way. We already protect our staff. Why are you telling me this? Because I heard about what Marcus did to you, and I heard that you're pregnant. And I wanted you to know that when you come to Allegra, you're safe. My staff knows to treat you with respect, to make sure you're comfortable, to accommodate any needs you have. Maria paused. I guess what I'm saying is, welcome to the family. For real. Elena felt tears prick her eyes again. Thank you, Maria. Thank you for doing what you're doing. For helping Lorenzo make these restaurants better. We need this. The industry needs this. After they hung up, Elena sat on her floor, surrounded by paint supplies and baby things, and cried. Not from sadness, but from overwhelming relief. This was real. This organization, these people, this opportunity, it was all real. She pulled out her phone and texted Lorenzo. Maria from Allegra called me. She's grateful for the changes you're making. I think Tuesday's audit is going to go well. His response came within seconds. Maria is one of the good ones. She'll take care of you. And Elena, you're changing this industry one audit at a time. Never forget that. Elena pressed her, hand to her belly, feeling her daughter move, and smiled. For the first time in years, the future felt bright. Tuesday's audit at Allegra confirmed everything Maria had promised. The restaurant was warm, welcoming, and operated with a level of professionalism that impressed Elena immediately. Staff laughed with each other, helped each other, created the kind of positive atmosphere that made customers feel welcome. Maria herself was a revelation late 30s. Warm smile, running the floor with practiced efficiency while also checking in with staff, making sure everyone was supported. When a server made a mistake bringing out the wrong entree, Maria handled it gracefully, quietly correcting the error without embarrassing anyone. When a customer complained about wait times, Maria apologized sincerely, comped their appetizers, and personally ensured their entrees came out quickly. This was what good management looked like. Elena finished her meal, a spectacular risotto with wild mushrooms, and wrote her report in the Uber home. Allegra, Tuesday evening. GM Maria Cortez exemplifies the culture Lorenzo wants across all establishments. Staff morale excellent. Operations smooth. Customer service exceptional. Strong recommendation for regional director position. This is the standard. She sent the report to Lorenzo and settled back against the seat, exhausted but satisfied. Her phone rang immediately. Lorenzo, you just sent the report, Elena said. Did you even read it yet? I'm reading it now. A pause. Maria, for regional director. You're certain? Absolutely. She's what every manager should be. Firm but kind, professional but warm, exacting but forgiving. She creates the culture you want. Then it's done. I'll offer her the position tomorrow. Lorenzo's voice carried warmth. Elena, this is exactly why I needed you. You see what I can't see from corporate headquarters. You understand what makes restaurants work from the inside out. I just observe what's already there. You observe what most people miss. A pause. How are you feeling? Not too tired? I'm okay. Baby's active tonight, which means she approved of the risotto. Lorenzo laughed, a genuine sound. Elena hadn't heard from him before. Good taste already. She'll fit right in at Russo establishments. Assuming she doesn't rebel and become a fast food enthusiast. Every teenager rebels. It's healthy. His voice softened. Get some rest, Elena. You've earned it. After they hung up, Elena sat in her apartment and marveled at how quickly everything had changed. 2 weeks ago, she'd been a struggling server, terrified about her future. Now she had a career, financial stability, and a boss who actually cared whether she was tired. She pressed her hand to her belly, feeling her daughter kick. Your mom did good, she whispered. We're going to be okay. Better than okay. We're going to thrive. For the first time in 3 years, Elena believed it. The following Friday, Elena was scheduled to audit her 6th restaurant, Sapori, an upscale Italian place in the Gold Coast. She'd heard rumors about the GM there, a man named Carl Winters who ran things with an iron fist. Not abusive like Marcus, but cold, corporate, treating staff like numbers instead of people. Lorenzo had flagged this one specifically. Winters has been with me for 8 years. Numbers are good, but I've been hearing complaints. I need to know if they're legitimate." Elena arrived at 7 p.m., dressed in a dark green dress that accommodated her now prominent belly. 7 months pregnant, and everything was getting harder standing for long periods, fitting into booths, staying focused when exhaustion pulled at her constantly. But she pushed through. This mattered. Sapori was beautiful, all white, marble and gold accents, crystal stemware and Italian modern art on the walls. The clientele was older, wealthier, the kind of people who ordered wine by the bottle and never looked at the prices. The hostess seated her at a small table near the window. Perfect observation point. Within 15 minutes, Elena understood the problem. Carl Winters managed his restaurant like a military operation. Staff moved with robotic efficiency, never smiling, never engaging customers beyond the minimum required. The service was perfect, technically perfect, but completely soulless. Elena watched a server fumble slightly with a wine bottle. Winters materialized instantly, his face neutral but his eyes cold. He said something to the server. Elena couldn't hear it, but the server's face went pale. Then Winters took the bottle, poured with perfect precision, and sent the server away. The customer never noticed the exchange, but Elena did. She watched Winters throughout her meal. He corrected staff constantly. Small things, invisible things. The angle of a napkin, the exact placement of silverware. Every correction delivered with cold professionalism, never yelling, never obvious, but constant and demoralizing. This was a different kind of toxic culture, not violent like Marcus, but equally harmful. Death by 1,000 tiny criticisms. Elena finished her meal technically perfect, utterly forgettable, and wrote her report in the car. Sapori, Friday evening. GM Carl Winters runs efficient but soulless operation. Staff morale low, despite no obvious abuse. Culture of perfectionism creates fear of mistakes. Recommend intervention, retraining, or replacement. Current environment unsustainable. She sent it to Lorenzo, then drove home through Friday night traffic. Her phone rang. "Lorenzo. I'm reading your report on Winters," he said without preamble. "You're recommending I fire him?" "I'm recommending intervention first. He's been with you for 8 years. That loyalty should count for something." "But Lorenzo, the culture at Sapori is toxic in a subtle way. Staff are terrified of making mistakes. Customers are getting perfect service without any warmth. It's technically excellent and emotionally dead." "Damn." Lorenzo was quiet for a moment. "I promoted Winters because his numbers were always good. I never thought to question what those numbers cost. That's what I'm here for now, to ask those questions. Monday morning, I'm bringing Winters in for a conversation. Will you be part of it?" Elena's stomach flipped. "Me?" "Lorenzo, I'm an auditor, not... You're the one who identified the problem. You understand what needs to change. I need you there." His voice was firm. "I know this is outside your comfort zone, but Elena, this is part of the job. Observation is half the battle. Implementation is the other half." "Okay," Elena heard herself say. "Okay. Monday morning. What time?" 9 a.m. Here at headquarters. And Elena, thank you. For seeing what I couldn't see. For caring enough to recommend change instead of just firing him." After they hung up, Elena sat in her car and tried to process what she'd just agreed to. Monday morning. She'd be in a room with Lorenzo Russo and a manager who'd been with the organization for 8 years, discussing how his leadership style was failing. This was way beyond serving tables. This was real responsibility. Elena pressed her hand to her belly, feeling her daughter kick. "Your mom is officially in over her head," she whispered. "But we're doing this anyway. Because someone has to fix these problems, and apparently, that someone is me now." She drove home through the Friday night city, her future unfolding in ways she never could have predicted 2 weeks ago. And for better or worse, Lorenzo Russo was at the center of it all. Monday morning arrived with cold rain, and Elena's nerves stretched thin. She stood outside Russo Enterprises headquarters at 8:45 a.m., one hand pressed to her belly where her daughter kicked restlessly, the other clutching an umbrella that did nothing against the Chicago wind. This was different from auditing. This was confrontation. This was telling a man with 8 years of loyalty that he was failing. Elena pushed through the glass doors and rode the elevator to Lorenzo's floor. Sophia met her at reception, warm smile in place. He's in the conference room. Carl arrived 10 minutes ago. Lorenzo wanted me to tell you, just be honest. That's all he needs from you. The conference room was all windows and polished wood. Lorenzo sat at the head of the table in a charcoal suit, his expression unreadable. Across from him sat Carl Winters, late 40s, graying hair, rigid posture. He looked exactly like what he was, a man who valued control above all else. Carl's eyes flicked to Elena as she entered, taking in her pregnant belly, her youth, her obvious nervousness. Dismissal flickered across his face. "Elena," Lorenzo said, standing. "Thank you for coming. Please sit." She took the chair beside Lorenzo, acutely aware of Carl's scrutiny. "Carl, this is Elena Russo. She's our new operations auditor. She visited Sapori on Friday." Lorenzo's tone was professional, neutral. "Elena, tell Carl what you observed." Elena took a breath, summoning courage. "Your restaurant runs with perfect technical efficiency. Service is flawless, food timing is precise. The dining room operates like a machine." Carl's expression softened slightly. "Thank you. I take pride in, but your staff is terrified," Elena continued, her voice steady. "They move like robots. They don't smile. They don't engage with customers beyond the bare minimum. And I watched you correct a server for fumbling a wine bottle, something that happens to everyone, with a look that made her go pale." The softness vanished. Carl's jaw tightened. "I maintain high standards. You maintain impossible standards," Elena corrected. "And the cost is a staff that's too afraid to be human. Customers notice that. They may not consciously register it, but they feel it. Your restaurant is technically perfect and emotionally empty." Carl turned to Lorenzo. "With respect, sir, I've been running Sapori for 8 years. Our revenue is up, complaints are minimal, turnover is lower than industry average. Turnover is low because people are afraid to leave without another job lined up." Elena interrupted. "I spoke to 3 of your servers after my audit. Off the record, anonymously. They described working for you as walking on eggshells and exhausting. One said she cries in her car after every shift." Silence filled the room. Lorenzo leaned forward. "Carl, I promoted you because you're excellent at operations. But I'm realizing I never asked whether you're good at leadership. Those are different skills. I've given you 8 years. And I'm grateful for them. But the culture I'm building across my organization, the one where staff feel protected, valued, human, that's not what you're creating at Sapori." Lorenzo's voice was firm but not unkind. "So you have a choice. You can work with Elena and Sophia to retrain, to learn different management approaches, to become the leader those servers need. Or you can continue running things your way at a restaurant that's no longer mine." Carl's face went pale. "You're threatening to fire me. I'm offering you an opportunity to evolve." Lorenzo slid a document across the table. "Option 1. You take a 3-month sabbatical. Paid. During that time, you work with a leadership coach I'll provide. You learn to manage people, not just operations. You come back transformed, or you don't come back at all. Option 2? Carl's voice was tight. You resign today with 6 months severance and my recommendation for other positions. But not at any restaurant that values staff well-being over technical perfection." Lorenzo's expression was neutral. "I'm not punishing you, Carl. I'm acknowledging that what I need from my managers has changed. You can change with me, or you can find somewhere that values what you're good at." Carl looked at the document. At Lorenzo. At Elena. His expression cycled through anger, confusion, resignation. "I never hurt anyone," he said quietly. "I never hit anyone, never yelled, never—" "You didn't have to," Elena said gently. "Death by 1,000 paper cuts is still death. Your staff suffers, just differently than they would with someone like Marcus." Carl flinched at the name. "Marcus Chen was fired for assault," Lorenzo said. "You're being offered retraining for management style. Those aren't the same thing, Carl. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm saying you need to learn new skills if you want to keep working for me." The rain hammered against the windows. Carl stared at the document for a long moment. "The sabbatical," he finally said. "I'll take it. I don't want to lose this job. I don't know how to do it differently." "Then we'll teach you." Lorenzo's expression softened. "Sophia will set you up with the coach. You start next week. And Carl, thank you for choosing growth over ego. That takes courage." After Carl left, Elena sat in the conference room with Lorenzo and tried to process what had just happened. You gave him a chance, she said. Because he earned it over 8 years. And because you recommended intervention before termination. Lorenzo poured 2 glasses of water from the carafe on the table, handed one to Elena. Some people can change if given the right tools and motivation. Carl strikes me as someone who genuinely doesn't know his impact. That's fixable. And if he comes back after 3 months and nothing's changed, then he leaves. But at least we tried. Lorenzo sipped his water. Elena, what you did just now, speaking truth to someone with more experience, more time in the organization, that's the hardest part of this job. You did it with grace and honesty. I'm proud of you. Elena felt warmth spread through her chest. I was terrified. Being brave means doing it even when you're terrified. Lorenzo smiled. How's the baby? Kicking like she's training for soccer. Strong, like her mother. 3 months passed in a blur of audits, reports, and slow transformation across Russo enterprises. Elena visited 43 of Lorenzo's 73 restaurants. She identified 5 managers who needed retraining, 2 who needed firing, and dozens of small operational changes that improved both staff morale and customer experience. Victor thrived as Giordano's permanent GM. Maria became regional director, overseeing 10 locations with the same warmth she'd shown at Allegra. Carl returned from his sabbatical visibly changed, softer, more aware, ready to rebuild Sappori's culture from the ground up. And Elena's belly grew. 7 months became 8, became 9. She was 37 weeks pregnant, waddling through her final audit at a pizzeria in Wicker Park, when her water broke. Lorenzo was across town at a meeting. Elena called him from the restaurant bathroom, trying to keep her voice calm. My water just broke. Where are you? Dante's Pizza, Wicker Park. Stay there. I'm sending a car. 5 minutes. His voice was controlled, but she heard the edge of panic. Elena, are you in pain? Contractions started about 20 minutes ago. I thought it was just Braxton Hicks. It's not. That's real labor. A pause. I'm coming with the car. We're going to Northwestern Memorial. You're not doing this alone. Lorenzo, you don't have to. I'm coming. Period. No argument. The car arrived in 4 minutes. Lorenzo emerged from the back seat, took one look at Elena clutching the restaurant's doorframe through a contraction, and swept into action. He got her into the car, called ahead to the hospital, held her hand when contractions made her cry out. At Northwestern Memorial, he bullied the ER staff into getting her a room immediately, stayed with her through triage, and only stepped back when the nurses insisted he wait in the hallway during the initial examination. Dr. Sarah Chen, the same doctor who'd examined Elena after Marcus's assault, appeared with a reassuring smile. Elena, I was hoping I'd be on call when you delivered. She checked the monitors. You're progressing quickly. This baby wants out. Do you have someone to be with you during delivery? Elena opened her mouth to say no, that she was alone. I'll be there, Lorenzo said from the doorway. If she wants me. Dr. Chen looked between them. And you are? Her employer. Her friend. Lorenzo met Elena's eyes. Someone who wants to make sure she's not alone for this. Elena felt tears spill over. You don't have to. I know. I want to. He stepped into the room. Gabriella died alone. I wasn't there. I can't change that. But I can be here for you, if you'll let me. Yes, Elena whispered. Please, stay. 7 hours later, at 11:43 p.m. on a cold November night, Elena's daughter entered the world screaming her rage at the injustice of existence. Lorenzo stood beside Elena's bed, the entire time, holding her hand through contractions, wiping her face with a cool cloth, whispering encouragement when she wanted to give up. When the doctor placed the baby on Elena's chest, tiny, perfect, furious, Lorenzo's eyes filled with tears. She's beautiful, he said hoarsely. Elena, she's perfect. Elena looked down at her daughter's dark hair, scrunched face, 10 perfect fingers gripping at nothing, and felt her heart expand so much it hurt. Isabella, she said. Her name is Isabella. Bella, Lorenzo whispered. Little beautiful one. He stayed through the night, leaving only once to get Elena food from the cafeteria. When she woke at dawn, he was asleep in the chair beside her bed, his expensive suit rumpled, his face softer in sleep than she'd ever seen it. This man, this powerful, complicated, dangerous man, had stayed with her through the scariest night of her life. Elena looked at her sleeping daughter, then at Lorenzo, and understood something fundamental. Family wasn't always blood. Sometimes it was the person who showed up when you needed them most. Sometimes it was the boss who became a friend, who became something like a father figure. Sometimes it was built from shared trauma and mutual respect, and the simple act of choosing each other, day after day. "Thank you," Elena whispered to the sleeping Lorenzo. "For everything. For seeing me. For protecting us. For being here." Isabella stirred against her chest, making tiny mewling sounds. Elena pressed a kiss to her daughter's head and smiled. They were safe. They were protected. They were loved. And whatever the future held, they would face it together. Elena, Isabella, and the family they'd chosen in the quiet spaces between danger and grace. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.